Welcome to the Phil Steele Plus Tour with selections. A nice week last week, going 4-2. Did not hit that play of the week, the first one we had this year, but went 4-2 on the week, so a solid week. And the quick hitters even did well last week. I've got 6 selections for you, and then 5 quick hitters as well. And once again, the purpose of this tour is for you folks that have Phil Steele Plus. It's just $99 for the year. To show you how to use the website to its fullest. I'll try to give you something in each different category and show you how to use it. So let's start out here with the Eastern Michigan-Arizona State game. Now, last week in Inside the Press Box, by the way, is my weekly newsletter. I have a complete write-up on every single game. This week there were 72 games. I also have best bets, and we give you a computer forecast on every single game as well. Inside the Press Box, got a special for you. But anyway, I lost a play on Inside the Press Box last week with Eastern Michigan. And it was a game where if you watch it, take a look right here. These are your half times. Eastern Michigan was dominating the game. It was 14-0 at the half. They're plus 11.5. Felt really good about the game. Had a 104 to 73-yard edge. So I'm watching all the games naturally, and I'm look up in the upper right-hand corner where I had the game. And the players are trotting off the field with 3 minutes left in the first half. It's the dreaded weather delay, and that weather delay cost us. Now, in the game, and by the way, I want to thank collegepressbox.com for providing us the box scores on our website. All you have to do is click right here. You get the box score on every game. And it's not just a box score. You get the complete game. It gives you the scoring in the game. As you can see, Eastern Michigan, it was 14-14, or it was 14-0 at the half, and then Louisiana came back, and after the weather delay, it was a completely different game. Plus, Eastern Michigan, if you look here, -5 in turnovers. You're not going to win many games -5 in turnovers, but the weather delay was the key play in the game, I think. Changed the complete momentum. 23-23 were the first downs, and Eastern played a much better game. collegepressbox.com, though, we have these box scores. Here's your box score on a game. Here's your individual players. Some drive-by-drive stuff. And then what I do every single Saturday night and then Sunday morning and all through Sunday, even into Monday morning, I actually go through this play-by-play of every single game. Last week there was 82 games to go through. It took me forever. But I'd like to see exactly how the games were played. So I'm watching them on the TV. This gives me a refresher. I can see the game by game. And maybe I missed something. When you're trying to watch 12 games, you may miss a play or two. This helps me capture every single play. So I go through the play-by-play of every game. And we have the play-by-play of every game available on our site, courtesy of collegepressbox.com. Thanks, Ted. Appreciate you giving that to us every single week. But as you could tell, Eastern was much better than the final score would indicate last week. They're a tremendous away dog. I showed you last week they're 20-6 against the spread as an away dog. And the great thing about them is they're actually 3-4 against Power 5 teams. 3-4. Here they lost to Wisconsin, yes. Let's take a look at some of these games. They lost to Kentucky, but they beat Illinois. They beat Purdue. They've actually got 3 wins. They beat Rutgers. 3 wins over Power 5 teams since 2017, and they do great as an away dog. They're back in that role again. Herm Edwards, not a great home favorite. Arizona State last week lost to Oklahoma State 34-17. They did win the opener against Northern Arizona as expected. They lost a lot from last year. They're laying 20.5 here. They've got a big game against Utah on deck at home. So it's a sandwich situation between the Oklahoma State game and the Utah game. Laying 20.5 with a poor home favorite against a great away dog. And like I said, I think if not for the weather delay, Eastern Michigan probably would have upset Louisiana last week. I like the way Taylor Powell was throwing the football. Completely different game once he came back from the weather delay. So I'm going to go right back with them. They had an 11-4 first down edge when that weather delay hit. We're going to take as our first play this week Eastern Michigan plus 20.5 over Arizona State. That's Eastern Michigan plus 20.5 over Arizona State is your first official play for the Phil Steele Plus Tour. All right, let's go to an ugly game this week. We're going to take a look at Iowa is hosting Nevada, and Iowa's laying 23 points. How can you lay 23 points when you've only scored 1 offensive touchdown all year, you might ask? Well, I've got my reasons for it. And first of all, let's take a look at what Nevada's done this year. As you know, by reading the magazine, Nevada only has 6 returning starters. And against New Mexico State and Texas State, they only had 257 and 274 yards. They were +9 in turnovers, and they actually won both those games. Then last week, if you read the Inside the Press Box newsletter, I called for an upset. I said Incarnate Word will beat Nevada. Called for it outright. Guess what? Incarnate Word beat Nevada. Incarnate Word had a 616 to 478-yard edge in that game. Shane Illingsworth was the starting quarterback for Nevada at the start of the year. He's the Oklahoma State transfer. They actually went to Nate Cox. Both are available here for Iowa this week, but they're struggling offensively. Take away the 478 they had against the FCS team last week, and you could see that in the 2 games versus FBS competition, they're struggling. Now, while Iowa's offense has struggled, the defense has not. The defense only gave up 120 to South Dakota State. They've given up 13 points on the season, 6.5 points per game, holding opponents to 156 yards below their season average. Take 156 off this, Nevada barely gets to 100. Inside the press box, I can tell you I did call for the shutout. I've got it going 30-0 in this game. So you've got a team that's 266 yards per game against FBS foes, 2 very weak teams. Now they're taking on Iowa. The pressure's on Iowa to get this offense moving. South Dakota State, by the way, is the number 2 ranked FCS team. That's a really good team. Iowa State's a very underrated team. If you read the magazine, you read that I said Matt Campbell's back in his wheelhouse. He's an underdog again this year, and that's where he does his best work, and their offense has struggled. If they get their offense going, and I think they can here against a Nevada team that gave up 616 yards to Incarnate Word last week, the pressure is on Iowa to get that offense going. That's why I've got them scoring 30. 30's not a great amount of points, but it's enough to get the cover, especially when your defense pulls a shutout. And what the heck, we may even get a defensive score here. I'm taking Iowa -23 over Nevada as your ugly game of the week. No one's going to want to take that Iowa offense. I think we see a different Iowa offense this week, one that puts up 30 points. Let's go to another play this week, and I'm going to call it the value play. And as you know, with this, you go to your team pages, you've got them all right here, and I always put the visitor on the left, and in this case, it's going to be Georgia Southern, and we put the home team on the right, and in this case, it's going to be UAB. So we take a look at this matchup for this week. As you know, Georgia Southern beat Morgan State. They look great, and then last week, they've got Scott Frost fired, putting up 642 yards against Nebraska. They switched from the option to a pass offense, but they brought in a lot of players in the transfer portal, and Coach Helton told me that offensively he really liked the receivers they had coming back, and it's worked out pretty good for him so far. Now, they haven't played a defense the caliber of UAB yet, and they're also in a letdown spot. They're coming off that big game against Nebraska, which, by the way, was on the road. Get back home. Now they got to travel again to UAB. The good thing about UAB here is, first of all, if we go back and take a look at Helton's record as an away dog, coming into the year it was 2-9. So now after last week's win, it's 3-9. But he's got a 3-9 ATS record as an away dog. UAB, look in your magazine, look up how they do as a home favorite. You'll see they're on a 15-6-2 run as a home favorite. And they're also off a loss. And go ahead and look at the record off a loss. 17-6-1 ATS off a loss. Use your magazine. Use it for those angles. It's very helpful throughout the season. Now, you've got Georgia Southern off a big upset and traveling. Last week, this line would have been 19. If you look at UAB, they were -3 in turnovers last week, and that was at Liberty. And Liberty has a pretty good quarterback now in Salter, and Liberty's a decent team. Hugh Freeze doing a heck of a job there. So that was a tough test last week. Now they're back at home, off a loss, need a win. Georgia Southern is on their second straight road game, off a massive upset, getting all kinds of praise. I like UAB, -11.5 over Georgia Southern as your number 3 play. That's UAB, -11.5 over Georgia Southern. Now, I'll also tell you this. Last week, as you recall, on the Phil Steele Plus tour, I gave you over 60 in the West Virginia-Kansas game. That thing nearly hit 100 points for the game. I don't have any totals this week, but if I do have a total like that one, Kansas and UAB, or Kansas and West Virginia, I'll make sure I put it on the line. So I looked at the totals, wasn't wild about any of them this week. Nothing dropped out of solid value like that Kansas-West Virginia game last week, but I will have totals for you but not today. All right, let's take a look at another matchup. We're going to take a look at Pitt against Western Michigan. Western Michigan is actually at home for this one, so we're going to put Western on the right, and we are going to put Pitt on the left. Let's go find Pitt over here. One thing I want to point out, and I don't think I have any examples to show it, but the last 40 years' results, you can actually go back to 1976 and find a line on any game. I think someone had a question, I believe it was some team. When's the last time they were this big of a favorite or this big of a dog? Once again, it's at your fingertips right here. All the way back to 1976. This is on every single team. Spread, this, and then what we did is back in 2003 when they started putting totals of the games, we started listing the totals. So totals go back to 2003. And then 2004, we started listing the half times, and that's invaluable as well. As you can see, you get the halftime on every single game, and that really tells you how the games were played as well. And then down here, this is neat. You get the coach all the way back since 1988. You get the complete stats. You can see where their special teams ranked, how they've done offensively, defensively, where they finished in the conference. As you can see here, Pitt was in the Big East. They moved to independent. They were actually an independent in 1990. And then they moved to the Big East, and they went to the ACC. So all this at your fingertips. You could tell when Pat Narduzzi took over, and you've got every line on every game. And you could tell the type style's a little off here, but we're correcting these. They'll all look alike coming into it, and we'll have 21 up there as well. That'll all be up. But since 1976, you can get these lines. But let's take a look at this Pitt-Western Michigan game. And the one game I want to hone in is right here. If Pitt had won this game against Western Michigan, even with this loss to Miami, they would have been a playoff contender when they were taking on Wake Forest last year. This loss took them out of playoff contention, and they didn't make the college football playoff. You got a little revenge factor working this way for Pitt this week. A couple other things I like about the game. First of all, if you watched the Tennessee game last week, you know that at one point Pitt was up 10-0. And then they got that tip pass in the end zone, or it would have been 17-0. They still led 17-7. Then they lost their quarterback. Keaton Slovis got injured. And then their backup quarterback, Patty, was playing on a twisted knee the rest of the game and hobbling around. If you look at the individual player stats, we have this on every game. You could tell the stats. Patty hit just 9 of 20 for 79 yards as he was hobbling around the second half. Slovis threw for 195 yards in the first half. Probably would have been a different game. If you go through the play-by-play, and I'm not going to take up your time doing that, but you'll see a couple of missed Pitt field goals, and Pitt actually lost this game in overtime. Had they not missed the field goals, had Patty not got injured, had Slovis not got injured, probably a different game, and Pitt wins outright, but that's the way it works. And that gives us a little line value this week. Pitt's coming off a loss. They're playing a team that kept them out of the playoff last year. They should have one of their quarterbacks back this week, Slovis or Patty. They may be down to the third stringer, but even if they are, I don't think it'll affect them here in this game against Western. Pitt's number 32 on my experience chart. Western's just number 105. If you go flip to your magazine, you will see Western Michigan is just 3-7 ATS as a home dog. And then you can look at how Pitt does on the road. Last year on the road, look how they did. They beat Georgia Tech by 32, Virginia Tech by 21, Duke by 25, Syracuse by 17. They win big on the road. Last year they won their ACC road games by 25.5 points per game, so they're capable of beating a Western Michigan by 10. In fact, Pitt's 10-2 against the spread as an away favorite. And the big factor I want to hone in on here for this game is while Western Michigan, they played Michigan State in the opener. They lost by 22, and that was on the road. But they gave up 7 sacks. Pitt is the sack team of the century. Look what Pitt did last year, 54 sacks. The year before that, 46 sacks. The year before that, 51 sacks. They get after the quarterback. They only have 6 sacks these first 2 games, but they've taken on West Virginia and Tennessee. Now they've got their weakest team there. I think the defense gets unleashed. The offense does enough. Pitt does great on the road. Western Michigan's inexperienced, and they're playing with legitimate revenge. Your number 4 play, we're going to take Pitt -10 over Western Michigan. Now, I always like to show you the FCS. And the FCS, we have a complete FCS magazine basically up here. A couple notes I want to put out for you, though, real quick. I like to give you guys specials. And one of the specials I want to give you here is for this week. Inside the Press Box single issue. Inside the Press Box so far this year, thanks to that doggone Eastern Michigan loss last week, is 8-5 on the year. I thought for sure we were headed to 9-4, but 8-5 on the season, not bad. And I give you a complete write-up on all 72 games this week. I give you my computer's forecast on the game. I give you my forecast on the game. It's just $20. You get $5 off, though, this week if you use the coupon code TOURBONUS. That's TOURBONUS. I'll show you that again, but all you have to do is go to the homepage of philsteele.com. And when you go there, just click up here and go to the store. When you go to the store, just takes a second. Here we go with the single issue of College. Click on that. Use the code word TOURBONUS. We do have an NFL and college bundle this week. It's normally $20 and $20, which is $40. It's $30 this week for the NFL and college bundle. Last week I gave you a code. This week I just put it up there as the regular price, $30. And one last thing I want to throw at you. If you want to get the college for the season, it's $169. Now keep in mind, we have a lot. That's this week's game for week 3 all the way through week 14. So you're looking at 12 more issues at $20 an issue. That's $240. It's just $169. But what I can do for you today, if you want to get in on PressBox for the rest of the year, get my complete write-up on every game for the rest of the year, get my computer's forecast on every game for the rest of the year. College inside the PressBox, just $169. NFL, which last year had a really good year, $169. The Pigskin Bundle is $269. And the good news about this is when you become an Inside the PressBox subscriber, you actually get Phil Steele Plus, a $99 value for free. But this week, if you use the code HUDDLE40, that's HUDDLE40, take $40 off. So it's just $129. Plus you get Phil Steele Plus for free. So it's $129. Use this code word here, HUDDLE40, for the season package. And if you want just this week, Tour Bonus, that's off the college edition this week, $5 off. And I do want to remind you, Phil Steele Plus, $99. And I'm about to show you the FCS. If you want just the FCS access, you get access to all the FCS teams, just $29. But let's get back to what we have here for this week. And we're going to take a look at a FBS FCS game. We're going to go to UMass against Stony Brook. And in this game right now, Stony Brook is a 2.5-point favorite. I've got the FCS there. Let me put the FBS on here because UMass is at home. We're always going to put the home team on the right. We're going to put the visitor on the left. We click on the FCS team pages. They're in alphabetical order for you, so you don't even have to know the conferences. Once again, when you do these, you've got the complete forecast for every team, a complete full page on all FCS teams written up for you. So it's like getting a Phil Steele FCS magazine included in your Phil Steele Plus. Now, Stony Brook's only played one game this year. They lost their quarterback from last year, and Tyquan Fields. Their quarterbacks this year, Joshua Zamont and Darren Bryden, have combined to hit 8 of 24 passes for 83 yards with 3 interceptions. Last year, their quarterbacks weren't wonderful. They had 9 touchdowns, 11 interceptions on the year, but this year they're even a little bit weaker. They only had 250 yards against Rhode Island, gave up 387. So my first question is, what are they doing as a favorite over an FBS team? I realize UMass has been bad, but let's peel back the layers a little bit here. UMass played Tulane in the opener. And as you know, here on the Phil Steele Plus Tour, I gave you Tulane minus 28.5. Got to admit to you guys, I was sweating a little bit. UMass took this thing to the wire. We needed a touchdown. If you look at the scoring chart here, Tulane got a touchdown with 4:14 left to give us the cover. I was sweating. This game was 21-10 in the third quarter. Yeah, I watch every single game that's out there. Don't worry about it. Anyway, so UMass played better than I expected against Tulane. And then last week they took on a Toledo team that's got a heck of a defense. Tulane's got a really good defense as well. And they got beat 55-10. But over here, you'll notice their defense actually allowed Tulane 189 yards less than what they've done in their other games this year. They allowed Toledo 31 yards less than their other games, or basically 110 yards below their season average. Same thing offensively. Despite these poor numbers, if you go back and look at Tulane's defense, in Tulane's other game, they only allowed 93 yards. In Tulane's other game, they only allowed 109 yards. In Toledo's other game, they only allowed 93 yards. So their offense and defense did better than what Tulane and Toledo did in their other games. they're actually a surprising team. I like the way they're running the football. They're running the football to win the games. No, they're not having great success quarterback-wise, and they also have an 0-3 ratio QB-wise, but they took on Tulane's defense, and they took on Toledo's defense. They did not take on Stony Brook's defense. And Stony Brook had a decent defense in the FCS last year, but I think if we look here under the forecast, I think they lost this year. The defense loses 7 of their top 16 tacklers and must replace 5 starters, including 3 from the D-line and both cornerbacks. So that's nice that their defense won't be as good as last year. Once again, all the FCS teams, you've got complete information on there. You can also go back and take a look at the last 5 years' logs. This is new this year. We have tracked the lines on the FCS. Over the last 5 years, there wasn't really that many lines in 17, but we got these 4, and we'll be tracking them this year. We'll have them up here in the next couple weeks. You go back and look at the lines on any game in the FCS. Nobody's got that type of information, and the individual player stats are on every single team as well. So you got a UMass team that needs a win desperately. They've got a new head coach in Don Brown trying to create a new attitude. I think they get the win here. Frankly, I'm surprised that this Stony Brook team. Now, if it was South Dakota State being favored, I'd understand it. If it was Incarnate Word being favored, I'd understand it. But Stony Brook, no. I'm going to take UMass plus 2.5 over Stony Brook as your 5th official play. Now, this one I mentioned in the quick hitters last week, and it won with the, if you followed Murray State at all. And so I'm going to bring it up again this week. It'll probably be the last week we'll get any value out of it. In fact, it's Friday while I'm doing this. The line's 22. Yeah, by the end of the week, it'll probably balloon up when the information gets out. But I'm giving you the information early. Take advantage of the 22 right now. But this is a team in Murray State where if you watch their game against Texas Tech, once again, if you take a look at the halftime stats of that game, they were doing well. In fact, let's look at the individual player stats. Their quarterback, DJ Williams, in the first half had 207 yards passing against Texas Tech. Now, Murray got injured on the last play of the first half. And then Lucas Mao came in and hit 1 of 7 passing for 1 yard. I mentioned this last week on the quick hitters, and guess what? They played Jacksonville State last week. The line was reasonable, and Jacksonville State crushed them 34-3. Had a 568, 269-yard edge. If we take a look at the stats, let me hit refresh on this one. All right, they're not up yet, but Todd will have them up there for you when they get there. Lucas Mao, well, we'll take a look at his stats from last week. He was 5 of 18 for 55 yards. Lewis Houghton even came in and hit 1 of 1 for 37. Is Houghton a wide receiver? Nope. So that's their situation at the quarterback spot. Last year, if you look at them, they only had 5 touchdown passes and 14 interceptions. So they do struggle to throw the ball. You got to think Ball State, after taking on a couple of decent offenses, Tennessee, a really good offense. Western Michigan is a team that's got a run game. They've got some capable running backs with them, which Pitt can shut down, by the way. So anyway, they struggled last week against Jacksonville State. Now they limp into Ball State. I don't think anybody's caught the true value going against Murray State right now. Ball State's a team that did well against Western Michigan, 447 yards to 437. Yeah, they got blown out by Tennessee, but they had 343 yards, so you got to like that, including 186 at the half. I think Ball State in desperate need of a win. They're coming off a losing season from last year. They're 0-2. I like Ball State to roll up over Murray State. I've got Ball State minus 22. Let's give you some quick hitters, and this will show you a little bit of how to use Phil Steele Plus as well. We're going to take a look at the Georgia-South Carolina matchup, and when you go to the matchups here, you can see that this gives you, click on Georgia-South Carolina. The last 25 years comes up, and what we see here, look at this over here. If it says win, that means the home team won. If it says loss, that means the home team lost. What's the colors? The colors mean against the spread. So the visitor has covered 6 in a row in this series. So keep that in mind. And this gives you a nice way of streaks. And once again, you don't even have to look at the score or the line. This just automatically tells you visitors covered 6 in a row. See how easy that makes it for me? So when I glance at a team and when I see a line of red, I'm like, what's that line of red? And then I go look and see what the line of red is. And it usually gives you some value. Visitor has covered 6 in a row in Georgia, South Carolina. And Georgia always does better on the road. Let's take a look at another one. And this time I'm going to give you an inside the press box. I told you I have my computer forecast on every game. Let's take a look at the Rice, Louisiana one. I found this fascinating. Rice is playing Louisiana. My computer says 156 to 155 rush, 180 to 190 pass, 336 to 345 yards. The final score, it is projecting Louisiana to win by 9, but they're a double-digit favorite on the road, as mentioned. They could easily have lost to Eastern Michigan last week. And this is calling for Rice to outgain Louisiana this week? That's interesting. I don't know if that's going to happen. I didn't expect my computer would have that, but like I said, I do not make a forecast inside the press box without looking at my computer numbers. So naturally, that would have me swaying towards Rice over Louisiana this week. Let's take a look at another matchup, and we're going to take a look at Texas State against Baylor. Now, Baylor's a 30-point favorite in this game, as you would expect. Baylor's in a sandwich situation. They're off BYU. They've got their conference opener on deck against Iowa State. Here's the fascinating thing I want to put out. These teams have played 3 times since 2004. Baylor's won by 7. Baylor's won by 7. Baylor's won by 9. And this 9 was a late safety after, let's take a look at that. It's 2021. That's last year. Let's take a look at what happened in that game. As you see here, this was a safety on the final play of the game, 29-20. And so it was really a 7-point game. Baylor did the fumble play, and it got returned for a safety. So really 3 7-point games in that series. And Baylor's in a sandwich spot laying 30 points. Keep your eyes on Texas State in that one. When you look at Duke, the one thing I want to point out, and this is good to show you how like if you're looking at FBS versus FCS matchups, you click right here. This tells you if Duke won. And as you can tell, Duke's done very well against FCS teams. But this tells you whether they covered. Once again, you don't have to look here and then look at the line and see if they covered. Green means they covered. Red means they didn't cover. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 1 against the spread whenever they play FCS teams. As you know, Duke is very well in non-conference games. Very good in non-conference games, I should say. And what this means down here, by the way, we do not do these files for the FCS teams. So this is actually the Duke one pulled over. So down here, it's the only thing different. Green is bad, red is good down here. So this means that North Carolina A&T has lost the last 2 games against FBS opponents. If you look at Duke, they're laying less than 30, and they beat Temple 30-0 at home. And if you take a look at North Carolina A&T, excuse me, North Carolina A&T lost to North Dakota State, and they lost to NC Central by 15 so far. But that's all up there on every team. And the final quick hitter I want to throw at you this week, we're going to take a look at Virginia Tech against Wofford. And it's something I just found fascinating. I know Virginia Tech's laying a lot of points here, but it should be a shutout. Wofford's getting 37 in this game. The thing I want to point out, if you read your forecast and learn about Wofford, you will see right here they are switching their offense from the option to a pass offense. Now, without the benefit of transfers, not playing in the FBS, they're going to struggle. And look what's happened. 230 yards against Chattanooga, 128 yards against Elon. Who are they playing this week? They're playing Virginia Tech. And Virginia Tech is back to playing the Bud Foster type of defense. Gambling, blitzing, attacking. Last week, I loved the matchup. In fact, using it inside the press box of Virginia Tech against Boston College. I said Boston College's young offensive line going against Virginia Tech's blitzing defense. They didn't have a chance. Look, 155 yards, 5 sacks. They're angry. They're nasty. They're at home. And they had that lost Old Dominion. I remember, I'll go back to that Old Dominion game and bring it up numerous times this year. This says 340 to 295, but they had that 54-yard loss on a bad snap on a field goal. It was really 394, and this was really 201 yards rushing. So they're a much better team than it would show. They should be 2-0 this year. They're playing Wofford. Their defense loves to attack, so they are going to think shutout, and this should be the 3rd straight shutout for Wofford. So your question is, can Virginia Tech score 37? I think they can. They put up 27 last week against Boston College. They're taking on the weakest defense they faced this year. I like Virginia Tech to roll that one up, and I would expect a defensive touchdown. I'll call for it now. When you got a team that's struggling to convert from the option to a pass offense, look for that interception return for a touchdown or a fumble return for a touchdown, and that's going to help your margin. I like Virginia Tech in that one. So those are your 6 quick hitters for the week. Once again, if you're looking for your specials for this week, the Press Box special for this week's newsletter is Tour Bonus. And if you want to get on board with Press Box, remember, Phil Steele Plus is $99 for the year. Go sign up for that now if you don't have it. You'll have all this access on your information on all your games I don't make a forecast without looking at my computer's numbers. I don't make a forecast without using Phil Steele Plus. And when I do my TV and radio shows, I use Phil Steele Plus. I got both teams on the screen. That's why I'm just rattling off stats all the time. You can become just like that and have total knowledge of every team, highlighted, color-coded, green and red. You see this red as at a notice. So get Phil Steele Plus. If you already have Phil Steele Plus and you want to get Press Box, remember, the $99 you paid for Inside the Press Box gets put towards, or for Phil Steele Plus gets put towards your Inside the Press Box. You can deduct that. And if you were thinking about signing up for Phil Steele Plus, why not just get Inside the Press Box? You get Phil Steele Plus for free. All right, that'll do it for your week 3 of the Phil Steele Plus Tour with selections. I hope you found it informative. I hope you learned how to use Phil Steele Plus a little bit more. I'll probably have an NFL one up for you. We do have, of course, NFL pages on every single team. The Browns actually won a game last week, the hometown team. You got all your stats, all your information. How's the Browns done against the Jets? That tells you how they've done. All that's available on the NFL as well. But thanks for taking the time to take the Phil Steele Plus Tour, and I hope you take advantage of the special bonuses I offered to you today.